Welcome to the Pro Cheerleading Podcast. This is the only podcast that gives you a raw and unfiltered perspective of what it's really like to be a professional cheerleader. Whether you're currently on a pro team, an alumni, or really curious about what it takes to become a pro cheerleader, the Pro Cheerleading Podcast gives you all the inside scoop and hot topics in the pro cheerleading industry and in-depth interviews of current and former cheerleaders. I'm your host, Mhkeeba. Join me every Wednesday as I reveal the truth behind the Poms. Well, everybody, I'm so excited about today's interview. I have Jackie Koegel with us. Welcome to the Pro Cheerleading Podcast, Jackie. I've been excited as hell to officially meet you. You are legendary, and I knew so many people would comment and share things of yours, and I'm like, who is this woman? So I'm just so glad that I had the balls to reach out to you, and you said yes.
Oh my gosh, no, equally, it's thank you so much. This meant the world to me to officially meet you as well. And I've been watching your work and it's incredible. So I think you have such a great energy and force within this industry. So blessed that, we crossed paths and we're here.
We're here. You have such an incredible story, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone. And I don't even know where I want to jump into it, but just for those who don't know, you are an amazing choreographer with over 20 years experience. And then you're also the owner and founder of Dance Team Central. And so we're going to go through your background. There's so many things. And I just encourage everybody to get on your Instagram and do what I did and stalk the crap out of this woman. Just so many amazing things that you've been up to and walking down memory lane. So let's go back, and we can go back as far as you want to go. But I just want to hear your journey as a dancer first and foremost.
Yeah, so I was raised in Des Moines, Iowa, single mom, and back in the 80s, the early 80s and 90s, when I got into this industry, there wasn't a lot of training, believe it or not, and now I was super on the map for dance and especially dance team. But back then, not a lot of training, nor did we have a lot of money growing up. So the idea of me being in the industry was just, I don't know. It was okay, can this happen? Can it not? I think my love for dance did start at a very young age. I always had a lot of energy growing up. And if there was music on, I was bopping around to it. My mom kind of took notice to that. And she actually ended up putting me in gymnastics classes to begin. Okay. So that was my first indoctrination into anything kind of sports or athletic related. From there, I have to bring this up because it is such a crucial moment in how I think I found my love for dance. And I can remember being in elementary school, and I would come home from school and it was MTV, BET were the thing. The music videos, and everything.
You're going back to that. Yes, that's right? How I grew up. It's you came home and you turned on the TV and you watched MTV, BET, music videos, the little shows that they'd have on.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I'm so with you.
Right? All that. And so I would obsessively watch these videos Janet Jackson, Paula Abdul, Madonna. And I gravitated a lot towards hip hop and R&B stuff. And then, some pop artists, but I would watch these videos, and this is literally, that's how I trained myself. I've never had any formal training still to this day. I mean, gotten quite a bit of experience, throughout my time, but these videos, I would learn the choreography. I'd be in my little basement practicing all day and night. And then somehow it just kind of started to evolve. I'm all right, well, I like to move to the music this way. And I would start to kind of make little things up and stuff. And then fast forward to high school, I got introduced to this whole dance team idea. And I tried out my freshman year, didn't make the squad. And I was devastated, but I was also all right, what do I need to do? Let's figure this out, And so next year ended up making the team and then became captain and choreographer my senior year, which was pretty cool. And then during my time on this team, the whole, team environment and the dance team industry. It was just something that I was like, this is where I want to live. Like, I love this. Again, I wasn't really exposed to any of that where I was in Iowa. So I guess the dance team community just seemed like, oh my gosh, this is the place for me. And so I really started to seek out, okay, well, if I'm going to go to college, I want to dance. I got to dance. And so I ended up somehow coming across the Louisville Ladybirds dance team. And that was it for me. I'm like, Ma, this is my dream. I don't know how we're going to make this happen, but we got to, like, can we do this? And she's like, yep. Like, you train, do what you can do. And so my little booty drove down to Louisville from Iowa, like 11-hour drive. I was all by myself, and that was my choice. Mom was like, wow, you decide. She's like, if you want to go do this. And I'm like, so I go down. I had no expectations of making this team my first year out. I really just wanted to get the experience, see what it was about. I miraculously made this squad somehow, became a Ladybird. And from there, like, it was a lot to navigate. I mean, one of the best college dance teams in the nation. And so it was a lot for me to try and balance the school and the commitments of the team and all that. So I was actually just on the squad for 1 year, and then had some friends that were like, we're moving to Portland, Oregon. And this was a few years I had stayed in Louisville. And so I was like, you know what? I want to come with you. I don't know anything about Portland, Oregon, but let me go.
I just love it. You're just like, let's try it. And that's it.
And they were really great friends of mine. And one of them was from there. So I thought, let me go out and see this. And my mom has been great. We might not know, like, financially how we're going to make something happen or how we're going to exactly connect all these dots, but she's always been like, Jackie, do what you need to do. Go, like, we'll always figure this out. So, instead of me going, Mom, let me go to Los Angeles and dance, like, and try there, like, let me go to Portland, Oregon. But you know what? It happened. And so getting out to Portland, that's really kind of where I would say my choreography, like, career started to take off. Like, I mean, it wasn't instantly at all, but I, got out there, I finished college out there, and then I worked my 9 to 5, and then became the head coach of a team. And then from there, my choreography just kind of started to take off.
That's the origin story. Well, I was so impressed because of all the stalking. I saw your post about I'm a professional stalker.
No, I love you.
This is why I feel like I know people already. They're like, oh, this is crazy. But
no, but it's like, it's just the way the world now.
Research, I guess. But I saw your post about being 16 years old, typing this letter so that you can go visit a school. That story has to be told, because to me, I mean, I didn't realize we were somewhat close in age, but just knowing, like you said, how you grew up, like what we were actually watching. If you didn't catch it live, that meant you were trying to, like, record it with your VCR. Well, actually, we couldn't even program them back then, I don't think. You just had to catch it live and record it, actually, if you wanted to be able to watch it back. But that's how I taught myself choreography. I wasn't trained either, but you recorded those performances or those videos. You play them back. You try to slow-mo it if you could. If you didn't know it, well, at least me, I'm speaking for myself. But yeah, you're literally trying to teach yourself the choreography that way. And just like you said, in that post, it was just, we were a lot more limited in terms of just the resources. There was no social media. Internet wasn't even kind of really a thing yet. And just
that letter is tight.
It's tight
on a typewriter. Sorry, go ahead.
But I love, it's a letter, number one. Nobody writes letters. It's all email. But I just wanted you to share that story, because to me, it just totally captures the woman that I'm kind of getting to know now, just of like the tenacity and just that fearlessness. I'm like so impressed by that. So tell that story if you don't mind.
Oh gosh, no, thank you. It's crazy for me to like, when I stop and think about some of these, I don't know, for me, just little pivotal moments, even at a young age, where I've just never been afraid to go after things. And maybe that's not maybe, I think it's a lot of kudos to my mom for just, again, that support factor and just going, you know what, Jax, you're not going to get everything you go after, but you're not going to know until you try. And so I think back then, I was obsessed with this industry and this community, and just how can I get better, and how can my team that I'm a part of, how can we get better? And, once you understand your goals and your team's goals. And so, yeah, in high school, the Collierville High School dance team, which, they were great back then. They kind of had a little hiatus for a minute, and now they're like really back in it. And so for me, that was like the Louisville Ladybirds of the high school, high school dance teams. And so we had ordered, I think, the UDA national tapes, and it would air it on ESPN as well. And so the minute I saw them, I'm like, oh my God, like this team, like everything about their delivery and what they were putting out, I'm like, I got to meet these people. I've got to. And I fortunately was able to cross paths with them briefly as a teenager at the event. But then getting back, I'm like, okay, no, I really need to get to know these people and what's going on behind the scenes with them, and how are they like the nicest people, right, on the planet too? Like that combination for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, this is it. So yeah, I ended up, me and my teammate at the time, Jane, we formulated this letter, and I look back and some of the way it was put, I mean, it was like pretty direct. I'm like, oh, I might have switched.
Like it was adorable, but so badass at the same time. It was so innocent, but it was just like, oh, and call us collect. It's fine. And oh, and by the way, we'll probably need to stay with you, because my mom will want to meet you. But otherwise, like, can we come down and hang out for a few days? I loved it. I freaking loved it because it, again, so innocent, but just so bold, and it was just invigorating. You probably didn't even think like, oh, this is a lot right now. You just probably just were in like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to research how to figure out who coaches. I'm going to send them a letter, and I'm going to just tell them I want to come down. I love it. You have the post of the actual letter. I encourage people to go check it out, but it was the best. I read that like a couple times because I was just like, this is awesome.
It is great. And what's even funnier about that is when my mom sent me the photo of it, she literally had to take it to her office, and like the way they mailed it, and she stamped it, like showing that, we needed to know that this letter was going to reach them. And so the exact date and time it was sent. Anyway, we were laser focused on like meeting this team, and it happened. It happened, like, and it's crazy, oh my gosh. So,
but that's how you get things done. It's like, it's that fearlessness of just trying, seeing what happens.
It really is.
I mean, I don't think that's really what it boils down to. If you didn't put yourself out there, it wouldn't have happened.
Right. It's so funny. I walk by every day the saying, and in great context, but I feel like we always say, what's the worst that can happen? But what I walk by is this quote that says, what's the best that can happen? And I love that. I mean, same, right? Having best versus worst, like just inserting that word. It's like, yeah, what is the best that can happen? These people are going to reach back out, or this person's going to help me with this, or whatever it is. It's just, it's like, I mean, you got nothing to lose. If you're coming from this like genuine, intentional place, you got nothing to lose. You really don't. Yeah, you're still going to make mistakes, right? But yeah, you learn, you can bounce back. It's like, you gotta step forward though, and go after it, I think, once in a while. So,
yeah. So your career went from moving out to Portland, starting to coach. Was that kind of like the end of your journey as a dancer, or did you also pursue opportunities to dance professionally as well?
Yes. So I started to audition for things out in Portland, primarily obviously pro teams, and I couldn't make those teams for whatever reason. It was just not my time, and it's interesting because I think, a similar thing happened in high school for me. I didn't make the team the first time. And so in not getting the outcome that you're hoping for, I started to look at kind of why I was auditioning for these teams and then figuring out, is the universe trying to kind of say, all right, we're saving you from some potential disaster, so to speak, or maybe you could be utilized somewhere else. Also, like, maybe is there another avenue or route we can be on that can still fulfill that why? And so while I was auditioning for pro teams, the coaching jobs started to come up, and then a few other little choreography jobs started to come up. So I didn't necessarily give up on trying to audition or go after other potential, dancer roles, but it was just the universe put some other opportunities in front of me. And so I ended up kind of steering that direction instead.
In the moments where you are like denied an opportunity, depending on how you look at it, right? Or if a door closes, and how you interpret that in your life, you can think, okay, I'm going to like super duper lock in, laser focus on this goal that I have. And if you do that, that's great. But you also may be missing out on other opportunities that might be present for you, things to consider or pursue. And so I know it's probably a balance of like, if you are open and you do pursue other things, are you giving up on yourself? Are you putting it on hold? Like, I'm sure there's a lot that you're kind of processing of like, what does this mean? And how do I redirect? But I love that you had that level of, I would say, maturity, to really look at things in that way where you're willing to like say, okay, if it's not this right now, it doesn't mean that it's never, but look at what else is happening in my world. And maybe there's another way, like feeding that why. And I think that's rather mature as hell.
Just jumping back real quick, when I was in high school, I mean, I felt like I had to be a part of this team. This was my only way I was ever going to be able to dance. Like, that was my mindset. Again, I was in a bubble. I was where I lived and what I was exposed to. So I was like extremely focused on, getting to accomplishing that. Like, that was nope. And I guess if it didn't ever end up happening, it didn't. But, when it came to pro team auditions, I also didn't seek out, which is just weird to me, but I didn't have like this mentor or this person that was really challenging me and going, nope, Jackie, no, you're not stopping this. Like, we're going to figure this out. We're going to get you more prepared. We're going to dial you in, and so I didn't have that. And I was new to Portland and I traveled a little bit to audition for other teams as well. But, it was just new environment. And I just didn't have the sense at the time to really, which again, it's odd to me because I have always been seeking out and understanding like, okay, how can we make this happen? Or but you had mentioned you weren't formally trained either. I just feel like it can be a great asset. Sometimes we can be a little more flexible in our thinking. And again, it's not about giving up or putting the excuses out there, blaming other people or whatever the case may be. But it's just like, oh, okay, like, yeah, maybe this isn't meant for me right now, but I don't want to give up on being a part of this industry. So what else can I do? And coaching wasn't even on my radar, but it happened. And then in my mind, I'm like, the choreography aspect of it, I just was kind of using it as this position of like, oh my gosh, I get to choreograph. Oh my gosh, I have to manage and mom 25 young adults. Okay, that probably is way more important than choreography, Jackie, but we're going to do this. Anyway. So,
I love it. So how did you enjoy just that aspect of it, of coaching and molding all these lives in addition to, teaching them choreography? I always thought about it in terms of like people who maybe don't have dance training, but become these amazing coaches and choreographers of trained dancers. Like, how does that dynamic even play out where it's like, do that thing that I don't even know what to call
spin.
Do that spin thing? Are you like, how did you manage all of that? And how did you feed yourself in terms of that craft, becoming a coach?
Yeah, I think there was good amount of knowledge like that I had received from my high school coaches and teammates as well as my college team. But I was always seeking out, how to do things and people or resources that I felt like, okay, if this can help me, I feel like this might be able to help my team. I feel like my girls coached me a lot as well. I mean, I definitely had a very clear vision, and, you know, it was people that signed up to be a part of this team knew exactly what they were in for. You know, it wasn't a team for everybody. I ran a very tight ship, and I think in doing so, I think it allowed me to earn the respect of my dancers. And so when I would come forth, maybe not knowing how to train them exactly, you know, whether that be with the movement or with the, you know, choreography or the training piece, they were like, all right, coach, we got you. Like, you know, we kind of utilize each other's knowledge and talents. And I was so open to that. You know, I think there is this fine balance as a coach to where just because you have a title as a coach, you can't expect kids of any age, I shouldn't say kids, young, you know, up to the pro world, you can't just expect them that you're in this role and they're going to respect you and they're going to do you know, you can't. And you gotta figure out a way to just, you know, I think listening to them and understanding like where they're at, how they learn best, you know, and also like, I think it's, you gotta have the rules and the regulations, if you will. And most of my girls, like I would do end of the year surveys and feedback, and they're like, oh, you know, we might have been upset one day, but we loved that we had to X, Y, and Z. Understanding the emotional roller coaster and being able to push, but in a way that they can respond back and still feel like, okay, I get it. I get why she's pushing me, and not just be like, oh.
Because you're going to get into your coaching style as well. I mean, it just rules and regulations, like you said, are kind of like, they're a necessity. Is for any program to, I think, be successful, you have to have like, you know, your expectations and having them clear, and for people to understand the why behind the pushing, behind the no, you know, all of those things that will still bring the best out of your athletes.
It is. And I will tell you, like, I will give my dancers props for that, because I came in with this very competitive background. I mean, between my high school and college teams, that's where the focus laid. And so they taught me a lot about tradition and like, coach, hey, like, wait, you know, you want us to do all this stuff, but why? I have, you know, no problem cracking the whip, but, and for me, it was like, I did that because I knew when I made the teams that I made in high school, college, that I was there for a reason. And those coaches put me there. So there wasn't a lot of questions asked. Like, that was back in the day, whether right or wrong, but it's like, you went with it. And for whatever reason, I understood it. I'm like, okay, you know, this tough love, quote unquote. Some people understand that term. Some people are like, no, not so much. So my team really taught me a lot about, okay, slow your roll. Like, let's sit down. We didn't have too many kumbaya moments, but I really learned, like, no, we got to listen and just take in what's important to them. And so, yeah. So I give my dancers back then, like, they really taught me about, okay, it's important. We can't just always work. We got to understand why we're working and just that mental psychology and emotional psychology behind it, which I think back in the day.
Yeah, that wasn't really like leadership style. I would say probably earlier on, it was kind of more iron fist probably, and nice people, but that was just the way that they probably led. And that was probably more so the norm than this, let's meet halfway in the middle and we'll have team meetings to bring up things that we, from resistance to whatever, like it just wasn't fully see that. So you were coaching at high school and collegiate level, is that right?
So I just coached at the high school level. Central Catholic was my first coaching job. And then from there, I had coached at Southridge High School, which was in Beaverton, Oregon. And we built an extremely successful program locally and at a national level. And so I was there for a decade. And then I decided it was just time. It was time to move on, which it was tough. It was really, really tough. That was, you know, my marriage and kids, so to speak. But it was time for me to move on and just pursue some other goals. You know, it's like you're helping other people reach their goals for so long. And you know, and you're still moving along and doing stuff that's fulfilling for yourself. But I'm like, where am I trying to go with all of this? So, yeah.
So was that a pivot for you to focus more on choreography then, in terms of like choreographing for pro teams and things like that? Is that where that kind of became more of the focus?
Yeah, it really was. So while I was coaching, I was doing a lot of local jobs for other high schools that obviously weren't in direct competition with us.
Right.
And then, yeah, I started choreographing for the Blazers quite a bit. So this was in 2018. I had just sat myself down and I was like, I'd been thinking about moving to Los Angeles for quite a while. And it was more just about, I just felt like I wanted to expand on my choreography and just be around more creative energy, just see what other opportunities are out there. And so as I decided to resign, I ended up working for Tribe 99, which they have Choreo Connect as their little choreography agency. So I did that for a few years and kind of got me outside the bubble. And so I was able to travel and get connected to other high schools and colleges and a couple teams overseas, which was really cool. So yeah, I was like, I'm going to choreograph full time. And it had the resignation, which again, it was really tough. And
Yeah.
I moved down to Los Angeles because I could really work from anywhere. I mean, I was traveling. And so I'm like, okay, I didn't have any family in Portland per se. And I have and still have some great friends there, but there wasn't family. There was nothing tying me down. And love
Yeah.
Portland, but I'm like, why am I in this rainy and gloomy city? It's beautiful. It's beautiful 2 months of the year.
But
But I'm like, Jackie,
still.
you love the sunshine. I mean, we talked about this in Seattle,
Mhm.
and I was like, let's do this. And so mom and I, she flew out and we drove a U-Haul down and now I'm in Los Angeles and
Mhm.
yeah, so the choreography, yeah, I just was ready to dive in and just see where it could take me. So
So
yeah.
nice. And I bet, especially for choreographers, and knowing that you travel so much, probably it's probably a lot easier to teach and to create in person for all of these different teams. But obviously, with the pandemic and just seeing that you really could do your work from anywhere because of having to probably go remote and in terms of
Yeah.
teaching. But yeah, it's nice to discover like you don't really have to be rooted anywhere. I mean, I wish I could just pick up
No.
and sometimes and go, 'cause like
Come
you said,
down. No, I'm kidding. Not that you want to be here. Come down.
But yeah, so then tell me how you became inspired to start Dance Team Central and tell us all what that's about too.
Oh my goodness. So it's funny because there wasn't this like aha moment for me. I think I've always wanted to start a business, and obviously it pertained to dance. And I can remember 2011, I had written my first business plan, and it was called Dance is Life. And I was
Hmm.
coaching, choreographing at the time. The vision wasn't clear. I knew it wanted something with dance, but like, what does this look like? So fast forward, for almost 10 years, over 10 years, and never really took a look at it again. It's always been in the back of my mind. And so 2019 rolls around, which was when I got to Los Angeles. And as we know, what started to happen 2019, the pandemic. And so had a little more time on my hands.
Hmm.
And I'm like, you know
Hmm.
what, Jackie, like you moved here to seek out opportunities and maybe in doing so, like it's not just about seeking, but hey, you've wanted to build a business, you've wanted to start a business, not that it's ideal time, but like let's just look at it. Like what can we now with the experience and everything that's going on, like how can we maybe make this happen? So I get out the old business plan and just start, I've got some really great friends and family and I'm like picking their brains and just going, okay. And they're like, here's our advice to you. They're like, do it. Quit talking about it and do it, Jackie, because we love your ideas. We love what you're doing, but they're like, you got to do it. Don't sit here again and say you want to do this. And I'm like, okay. So next thing I know, anyway, the logos developed and I had this initial vision. So I feel like for our community, there's the dance training aspect. I think there's so many great resources out there, which, I'll share Dance Team Central is providing as well. But as I navigated this a little bit further, there's not a lot of resources that help us as choreographers, as dancers, even as coaches, to really like expand in our roles and navigate certain things, like whether that's, career development, creative development. It's like, oh, well, I know Mhkeeba and she's choreographed for this team, or coached for that team, or danced. And so maybe I can call her and ask her a few questions. And, there's great resources, but nothing specifically identifying like, okay, this is my goal. These are the steps I need to take, or, whatever that looks like. So Dance Team Central, it's really providing resources for these roles. Right now, I'm laser focused on choreographers. And I just think oftentimes we're all normally, I should say, not every choreographer maybe started out as a dancer. I'm sure there's a few that, or just maybe have that creative juice in them and can move. But, we're dancers, and then we suddenly figure out we like to choreograph. And then we maybe get tapped by a friend like, hey, will you come do this? And, and you're working for free for a couple years or minimal. I want choreographers to understand, like, there's so many things we can do in this industry as choreographers. So again, that career development, that goal setting, and then the creative aspects of what qualifications and things that we need to have in order to maybe get to certain jobs. So,
because that path is not quite clear. I've interviewed a few choreographers, but it's not like even especially as a dancer. I think sometimes that seems like the natural next move after you retire is like, if you enjoy choreography, it's like, well, maybe I'll do choreography for the team that I'm on. And if you didn't know what you were doing or how to actually build a career in that path versus kind of stumbling along, I think you're right. It's just not very clear how to go about it.
It's not. There's like the business side to our role, and then obviously the creative side amongst the emotional and mental stuff as well. But, those two components, to be able to understand some of the framework around that, and then take it based on your goals, based on who you are, what your why is, and just be able to a little more clearly navigate the industry. And
when I saw your Instagram and you were sharing so much about your journey throughout your career and all the, different things that you learned, and I was just kind of like astounded because, like, you're right, like these resources aren't really available. And then I'm like, she's kind of like giving it all away. And I was like scrolling, I'm like, well, how much does this cost? Where's the price tag to give away all of this helpful information? Because you were just serving it up so clearly. Just so well intentioned behind it, which I think is amazing. But it's a lot of information that I think, people getting like a shortcut and not having to invest in it. I was like literally not yelling at Jackie, you guys, but I was just like, we can be charging for this program because they're giving away so much helpful information that, what inspired just this serve it up on a platter, like, here's everything I wish I knew, because I think it's so valuable. But like, talk us through like what it is that your why in that department.
Yeah. I think the longer I'm in this industry, whether it's meeting newcomers or even some of the most sought after choreographers and having conversations with them, and we're all going through similar struggles and similar, we've got these questions, and we're just like, well, how do you do that? Well, how do you do that? Like, what's going on here and there? And so I think that's a lot of my inspiration is others, and trying to bring it all together and provide it for people, because I think there's such a misconception that you can't be a full-time choreographer, you can't sustain a living, and is that really possible? Or even part-time thing, depending how much you want it in your life. Sometimes life just takes us in a different direction. But also I feel like, oh my goodness, if they had just maybe a little more availability to more resources, would they have stuck around and pursued this? You know? And so, and it's weird because it has taken me the last few years to really, once I had Dance Team Central on the docket, I'm like, we're doing this. I just honing in on this piece. I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. And, you know, whether it's I help one person or I get to help, you know, however many, that's fine. Like, it's just, I think it's important for us all to share our stories and just connect, you know, and.
Well, I think it's super commendable, number one, because I do think when you're in this space of like, of really literally just wanting to share and connect people and help people, I know there's a fine line between doing it to your detriment, but I just think when you're really truly that open and it's all coming from a good place, I think it just has its way of working out, whether it's for a business purpose or not. It's just like, that is just a very admirable goal of just wanting people to be able to fulfill their potential in this space in the same way that you've been able to, and also just having a little bit more of resources and assistance along the way. Because I mean, if you could take all the things that you've learned, the hard lessons, the good lessons, and just keep it pushing, and, you know, I struggled, you have to struggle kind of mentality. But I just think it's really awesome that you have found a way with Dance Team Central to figure out how to package that and to create a business for yourself in that way. So what would you say Dance Team Central offers? Give us the infomercial.
Yeah, no, I love you. I am unfortunately still working on my elevator pitch, but I will tell you, I'm just like open book. I'm like, I got nothing to hide, people. This is like a work in progress. You know, we all start from somewhere. You know, it's like we gotta learn. We gotta just learn along the way. So right now, Dance Team Central is offering in-person dance camps. So we're starting in Portland, Oregon, because that's where it really kind of all started for me. And we're doing high school and college camps, and they're training camps focused mostly on performance material. We're doing some college prep classes, pro prep classes, just a number of things with those in-person camps. And then separately, I'm developing digital resources, so online courses, and my first course is going to launch actually May 1st, which is a crash course in business for choreographers specifically.
Oh my gosh. So, that's huge. The business side of it, and knowing it. Oh my goodness. I love that already, because goodness gracious, like,
it's
so many things that are could be very, very costly mistakes too in launching a business. Anyway, go ahead. I love that. That's awesome.
No, it's like even hoping to connect the dots, you know, again, not just like the younger kids, but it's like, no, if you're working at least 5 jobs a year in choreography and getting paid, well, if you're doing one and getting paid, you're in business, right? But if you're up, you know, starting to really start to work, like, you got to understand the back office duties, or I don't want to say you're going to crash and burn, because I didn't know them for years, but I'm really excited. Like, I'm super passionate. That's what I did, the college thing, and graduated in marketing and advertising management. So I don't know if, you know,
it's that side of you that's coming out too.
Yes, but it is. I'm like, and it's interesting, because I'm actually in business, in this business course, still able to utilize my creativity in a great way. So that's been such a great outlet, developing the online course for that. And then equally as excited about June 1st, I'm going to launch a creative development training program, which will be a 6-week program that people can sign up to. And we're going to work one-on-one with myself and my clients. And so I'm going to take them through the entire process, you know, even actually some of the business stuff too. They're going to be on the communication side of things. And then we're going to
shadow you.
Yeah. So with that, they're going to also get to create with me. So I've kind of got it set up to the first 4 weeks. We're going to be working with a client, developing the routine. And again, just structuring, like letting others, I'm not going to unleash your creativity. That is special. That is unique. That is something you are bringing to the table. What I hope to do with this program is just, okay, if you wanted to come on and learn how to put together a competition routine for UDA, or if you wanted to choreograph for a pro team, what do those routines look like? How are we structuring them? Because, I don't want to say there's a formula, but there is, right? And it doesn't matter whatever your style is, right?
You need certain things that you got to have for like
it's got those elements. You got to have that intro that's going to grab your attention. You got to have those layers. You got to have the forms, the movement. So the program's designed to really allow people to bring their creativity, their choreography, and just give them some of that framework. And then at the end of the course or the training program for 2 weeks, then they're going to essentially get like a real life assignment, if you will. And so we'll be connecting with a team or a client, again, depending on their goals. And then they will officially get to create a routine from scratch by themselves. And I'm just going to be there for mentorship and just feedback and let them walk away. They'll have a routine then that they get to instruct and teach a team and gain some more experience. And so, yeah.
I just could imagine, like you said, really talented people that maybe it's just needing, like you said, a framework or a little bit of training and mentoring, some behind the scenes, understanding the importance of setting yourself up as a business so that you can grow it that way versus just having stuff to kind of put on the resume, but not thinking of you're really operating a business. I think that's phenomenal. And then having the chance to actually do some real work from it, be a part of work that you're doing for real clients as well. Like that's an awesome opportunity versus just kind of winging it and or coming up with something that's missing certain elements that you need or just a little bumpier of a start. I think that's an awesome idea. Is it like an application process or?
They will be able to go to the website, so dancecentral.com, and they'll be able to register from the site and they'll kind of get all the details and the commitments and, everything. And I'm actually for the creative development, I'm going to be doing consults before just to make sure like, yes, this makes sense for you, or you know what, maybe it doesn't, because I am at the end of the day, like I want people to find value and be able to be in a place that, yes, this is definitely going to help you, or you know what, maybe you need to do a couple more things here on your own. And then I think you invest in this, So I've decided to at least for now to start to connect with people ahead of time, but everything will just, is going to be through the website. And I'm learning my way around social media. It's
I'm right there with you, Jackie. Like I just can't. Like I just need to hire somebody who's hella into it and can just, I just can't. I mean, hey, we got to pick our battles.
We do.
We're trying, right? We're trying.
Yeah.
That's all we can do.
It's true. It's true. It's like, it is a full-time job, and I can see why people get paid to do it. And for me, I don't love it, and I recognize, my goodness, I wouldn't be here today if I wasn't on it, So it's like, it's got some great perks, but man, it's something time
consuming. And
it is
literally there's science to it and math and all of the things that, in terms of really just rigor. And again, it's a full-time job. Anybody who works in social media, I'm just in awe of. And because it's my
goodness.
I don't, and how do you do that for multiple clients? I don't even freaking get it.
I know. I think about that. These social media managers, I'm blown away. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. Yeah, I bow down to them because, oh my goodness, no idea.
Especially in our space too, because especially with music and choreography and different things, it's like finding creative ways of showcasing your work and having to navigate all the copyright stuff. I mean, it's just gotten so convoluted that, it's becoming more important to be creative in the way that you market and spread awareness of your work in this particular industry.
It is. I mean, and everybody's.
I'm surprised I even have an Instagram and didn't get kicked off when I did the playoffs a couple of years ago. Because, and I know better, but you just kind of wing it, hoping they don't pull your stuff down or disable your account. But no,
right.
So you are able, speaking of that, like in terms of your work and the things that you're able to post from your competition routines and things like that, you are able to share. I'm still learning about the collegiate world and all the rules and the do's and the
Yeah.
don'ts and whatnot,
No, no,
but
no.
you are able to share some of your work online, right?
Yeah, and I'm in a space where a lot of my work is like it's
Mhm.
all licensed music, and I think too, I mean, I'm sure the more followers or whatever you have, I'm sure the eyes are looking down closely and
Mhm.
it's not in my wheelhouse to have followers or likes or anything. So I think I'm just able to put out my content. I've got a, small following but yes, most of my music that is being, or my routines are all licensed. So I don't know if there's not an algorithm, but if there's something in the system going, okay, that is a licensed track, or I don't
So,
know.
yeah.
I'm so far from understanding all the ins and outs of social media, but still posting it. And, I think we get in this mindset, and I've been doing it now that I've been on here a little more, but like people in the industry get it, like coaches, dancers, choreographers. If you have to post, I mean, all my videos have screaming in them. Some of them don't have music. They're blurry. I'm like, you know what? It's really about the message anyway
Yeah.
that is
Yes.
normally trying
Yeah.
to be delivered. And maybe it is just if you are just trying to showcase the routine, people are going to get it. If you can't post it, it's got to be silent. Don't just take it down. Still put it out there and put your choreography, that way people can see it.
You shouldn't sacrifice your body of work
No.
just based on, like, I mean, I'm so over the music copyright stuff, like I can't even handle it.
Oh,
Um, tired of routines that have to be chopped and screwed a million times over in order to kind of make it where it
I
doesn't get flagged. But it makes
I
me think of
know.
the choreographers and just that you're feeling more limited in what you can share. And so, like you said, post it without sound. At least we get to see the dancing. It's something
Yeah.
for me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, how do you connect with it? But if it's coming down to you establishing your portfolio, like again, coaches,
Yeah.
dancers, other clients, they're going to go, okay, of course, we want to really connect with it. Yes. But if they're able to see, oh, no, this is
Mhm.
our girl, this is our guy, like we love what they put together here, whether it's with music or not. Yeah, I say
Yeah.
still go for it.
Well, I will say that as I scroll and depending on where I'm at and who's around, like I know I love a routine when I don't have my volume on and I
So
actually am
true.
intrigued and watching the choreography. When it looks like just chaos and like clearly maybe the movement is super tied to whatever's going on in the song, like you can kind of tell when there's a flow versus just
Yes,
like a bunch of moves packed into an 8 count or whatever. But I know that I love it already when I
it's so
admire what I'm
true.
seeing without the volume on, which now that I think about it, like all the more reason, post it for sure. Because if it's
Post it.
good, I think it's
Like,
good. If
yeah,
it's eye catching, if it's interesting, and if the performance still reads with even without music, that speaks volumes for
right,
sure.
right.
Like the
No.
video you posted, it was kind of a throwback, and maybe it was like a video, like a
Oh my
VHS or whatever. But that freaking
Actually,
intro, no, but the intro, like in the first three moves, like it was, and
oh,
like you said, you didn't need the music to even appreciate that at all. It was
do it. No.
phenomenal.
Oh my goodness.
I guess if you could wave a magic wand in like kind of the dance team universe, I don't know if there's certain like trends or kind of the direction. I'm starting to pay more attention to, collegiate space. I wasn't part of like a university that had like a huge dance team or, going to nationals and this, that, and the third. So I get a little overwhelmed because there's so many competitions and I'm like,
Oh
what is
my gosh,
happening?
there's
Like,
so
so much. I'm like, what three-letter combination is this? And what are, I thought we already had that competition. I'm learning, but
so
I
so
don't know if
many.
there's certain trends or kind of, a direction that you see the industry heading, but is there anything that you would change or that you'd like to see in the future for dance teams, whether it's collegiate, pro level, anything that you'd like to shed some light and wisdom on?
It's so funny. Yeah, when you say the word trend, it's so interesting because I am the least trendiest person. But I know how you're saying it. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
and I am like you, like I'm very aware of, what's going on, but I guess I've
Mhm.
always just kind of somewhat gone against the grain and just this whole journey has been so unconventional for me. So
Mhm.
I guess if there was one part of the industry, I just really feel like, and so many, I feel like more people are starting to speak up and share their stories. And I just really want, not rainbows and cupcakes, but I like something that is just connects us and that like allows us to all share this space and do what we want to do and succeed however we want to succeed and support one another, because I don't know exactly what that looks like, if it's, if it's a person, if it's a group of people, if it's a company. But I would like to see more of the organizations that are in place for this industry to just start to bring more awareness to some of the things that we go through emotionally, mentally, and again, providing resources that can connect the dots for more people.
It's something that for people, especially that have been a part of this space for a good period of time and have invested a lot in helping build this community into what it is today, which I consider you to be a big part of as well. It's always interesting to kind of ask that question of like, where are we? Because this is, believe it or not, I mean, it's a dance community, it's a cheerleading community, a professional community. It's also an industry, but we're lacking like a kind of like like you said, like an overarching organization,
yes,
this umbrella that we all fit under.
Yes.
And you have like the different leagues like NBA, NFL, and all the other different leagues and semi-pro leagues. So there isn't like one big united federation of
maybe we go into business together, Mhkeeba. Maybe this is the new partnership. We figure this out.
Because I do feel like that was a void, at least that I kind of, since even in just trying to have a podcast talking about this space, like, dang, we need something, because I don't speak for anybody other than, myself, but just knowing that even when the podcast started, like, okay, my experience is in NFL cheerleading, so I could definitely talk about that till the cows come home. And then you're kind of like, well, what about NBA? And then you kind of realize, oh crap, they go through similar things as we do. And there's so much that like connects us. And I think we kind of get it. Social media has helped tons, I think, in that way, but we're still an industry. We're still a thriving community. And there's so many different businesses that are popping up. And I just think, like you said, if there were combined resources or some kind of umbrella, and when you think of all the different career paths that all these current and former cheerleaders, like we should just have one big fat behind network at the very minimum, just for like if you're looking for an accountant, guess how many accountants probably were on a team, or like, you know what I mean? Like, be like some kind of
I just
LinkedIn effect for us, right?
Yes, because it's like, not that we're fed to the wolves, but like, it's just like, what we just have to grab hold of whatever info, whatever kind of jobs. Like, it's like, wait, there's got to be a better way to like streamline this. Like, oh, yes.
We need that, damn it. Like, we really do need that. The more I think about it, it's like, I'm not a big networking person. Like, I know I can't stand it. But when you're talking to people in this space, it doesn't ever feel like that. Like, that's why I'm like, give me the infomercial, because it's so different when you're speaking to somebody that knows your language, that knows, it's just this commonality that is just, it's so inspiring because we all get each other. We all get it. And if we want to work with people who also share this passion for dance and for cheerleading and whatnot, it's like, it just makes sense for us to be able to connect with each other, and not just on a business level, like you mentioned, like mentally, emotionally, just like, like if I wanted to find a freaking therapist, who would be better to talk to than somebody who's like studying this or from the, anyway. Totally. We're going to have to figure that part out.
I know this might be like
having a podcast is one thing, but I just think that we just should have our own way of connecting with each other. I know there's alumni associations and whatnot.
Yeah.
I don't know what they do on these. I'm going to try to go to a couple things this year, hopefully, but
love that.
It doesn't have to all be on the basis of like, hey, you were on a team and therefore you're part of this little club. It's like, we have a whole ecosystem of amazing people who are feeding this industry to make it what it is. So how do we tap in and just share those resources and really connect with each other?
And I think like the longevity and the sustainability, like having, I mean, do we ever really have balance in our lives? It's tough, but I think, yeah, man, if there was something that could just really be the umbrella, I mean, I think we would catapult as, as a community. Like
we would. And the buying power and just like, even just like the metrics that you would get of knowing like who this market is, because like once you can say to brands like, hey, this freaking network of everybody involved in professional cheerleading and dance, okay, whoever they are, choreographers, directors, former dancers, current dancers, you name it. This is the education level. This is the things that they're doing, the businesses that they represent, the industries that they represent. Like, I mean, that just fuels power and a whole different conversation about leverage, value, and worth, and
everything.
And you're not waiting on somebody to do it for you, because they're not going to all of a sudden wake up and be like, wow, this is a really interesting segment of the market that can actually, I don't know, that maybe we should cater to, or maybe we should listen to. Like, anyway, now I'm on a tangent. But see,
I love this. I'm like, I got goosebumps. I'm like, oh,
But it would be so cool though. And that's why, I mean, at least with this podcast and my last season of it, for right now, as far as I can see, it's really about like sharing stories and the spotlight on people doing wonderful things in our space, and just hopefully inspiring other people to realize what all they can do with this background that they have, and just understanding that their journey might be very, very similar to someone else's, and that there's so much to learn and grow from that. And I thank you for being a part of this, just sharing the resources that you're putting together. So this is actually your personal Instagram that people may need to see, to all these posts that I've been talking about. But how do people find you? Tell us your handle as well as Dance Team Central.
Oh my gosh. Not that I just found out what a handle was, but I was seeing on some of the people, like I was, trying to create my own applications for things for Dance Team Central. And I would go on other, like, what are your social media handles? And I'm like, oh, I got it. What? Like, anyway. But my Instagram is just Jackie Koegel, JACKIE KOEGEL. I even have a TikTok. What? But I'm like doing it sparingly. Anyway, but yes.
I have one and only TikTok. Literally.
Hey, you got one.
One a year.
That's
one
perfect.
Video a year.
That's all we need. That's all we need. Oh my goodness. So yeah, so that's my personal accounts, and then Dance Team Central. I've just started that Instagram account, and have the website, and it's funny because the website's way more built up than like we said, social media, man. It's it's a
work in progress
career. Yes. Yeah.
But the website does have a lot of those jewels, and I will link it so people can reach it from the show notes too. But just encourage people to, one, follow you on Instagram. I just think your posts are really inspirational. Like, I love following experiences and meaningful posts, of sharing your thoughts. I love your Instagram.
Oh, that means so much to me. And not to tangent, but just while we're talking here, it's funny because I think, not speaking for you at all, but just our generation to a certain extent, and how we view social media. And, I think we did have to go, okay, we've got to adapt to this and get on board to a certain degree, based on maybe career stuff. But I'm also so thankful that I'm not in this space to gain followers or to gain likes, or, and I think it's like, if you can just tell your story and do so in a way where it just is meaningful, and it's like, it might work for some people, it might not. Getting on these platforms, I understand why, but if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, you can spiral very quickly. And then I think you can get closed off to wanting to, again, expand in our industry. So again, the whole I got nothing to lose mentality. I'm like, well, I built my relationships and friendships that are, even though we've never officially met in person, but that connection is established. It's not just, like a post trying to get this attention or something. put out there what you want and do it for you. And, you know, and
no, I totally agree with that. And I mean, I was watching Lizzo's, I OD'd yesterday.
It's in my bank to watch. I've heard, is it amazing? That's what I've been reading.
Like, how many tears did I cry? Like, I don't even know what triggered them all the time either. It was just really, and I never watch TV or shows, so I'm really sucky.
Oh my God, Mhkeeba, we are literally
the same person.
Sisters from another mister. Like, I never do. Okay,
I do not watch TV.
Sorry.
I used to only watch like sports and sports talk shows, and I don't even do that anymore hardly. But I was like, I really want to watch this Lizzo show. You just be prepared. You'll watch the whole thing in a day. It's probably going to happen. But I was just thinking of just how much she just put into that show and what she poured into her dancers. I think it was really just the care and the love that she had for the dancers that she was bringing in and trying to find for her tour. So all the feels, okay, it's just like amazing.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
It hit me like when you think about when you do put yourself out there for social media, and I don't see it often in our space. And I might be maybe on DCC's page because you have the randoms, and I jumped in the comments one day on a DCC post because they were commenting on how skinny this girl was. And I was just like, oh, can we not? I just kind of lost my shit and said something. But when you think of just how much hateful communication happens over social media, and how it really, really impacts people. And there was, people speaking to that on the show. But it did make me feel at least a little bit better. You have people that are posting with different motivations and whatnot. But for the most part, I'm just like, at least when you go in the comments of some of these posts, you don't see the cutting down kind of, oh my gosh, just the negativity that you see and that is out there, and probably maybe more on TikTok. I don't know, but it's at least a relief that it seems somewhat of a safe space. Even if you're posting for attention, like nobody's there saying, look at your this, and, just tearing people apart. And it's just, it's a huge testament to what this community is really like and about. And I mean, I do hope that people do continue to just feel inspired to share their stories authentically and just do it for you. Not for any other, like you said, just like the
do it for you.
Calls, do it for you. No matter what. I mean, I think I'm an old school poster. Like my posts are probably too long, and I'm just whatever it is. I mean, I'm just who I am. But people love and listen and whatever. Anyway, thank you, everybody. It's my farewell tour.
Amazing. You are so amazing.
You touch somebody with your social media, it makes me feel a little bit more like, you know what, it doesn't have to be like social media perfect by social media standards these days. Like, I attach more to just, like I said, thoughtful posts. I don't care if it's like long post alert. It's just, you have something to say, and it's beautiful to share it. It touched me. It made me want to reach out to you and get you on this podcast. And I'm just so grateful that I did. This is,
thank you. No, this is so meaningful. This meant so much to me. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening to the Pro Cheerleading Podcast. You can follow your favorite podcast on social media at Pro Cheerleading Podcast on Instagram, at Pro Cheer Podcast on Twitter. We're on Facebook, on YouTube, and you can support your favorite podcast on Patreon. Until next time, keep your eyes on the sidelines.